Giving the highest praise. Hallelujah. Giving the highest praise. In the morning when I wake up, in the night when I wake up, I will lift up my voice to heaven and give you the highest praise. Hallelujah to my King. Hallelujah to my Father. Hallelujah to my Jesus. I bow before the throne. When I look at all the wonder and I see all the creation, the beauty of the universe, you never, never change. You never, never lie. You never, never change. You never, never change. Hallelujah to my Jesus. Hallelujah. 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 Hey, hallelujah. Good afternoon, folks. Let me make sure, check my mic here. Okay. Good afternoon, folks. We want to welcome all our viewers and listeners across the globe. And in today's edition, let me check my mic here to make sure it's okay. Okay. We want to welcome our viewers and listeners across the globe. Thank you for sharing your beautiful midweek Wednesday with us here. It's 1:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be having a special guest, is senior executive and the treasurer, the national treasurer of the opposition to Liberty Party. She's going to be our guest here. Stay tuned. Just share this video. It's going to be hopefully a good conversation here. Real issues, not necessarily the entertainment that you want, but real issues are confronting our country. And I'm Alfonso Ziensot of the Liberia Public Radio. Our East Africa correspondent and senior analyst of the Liberia Public Radio, Mr. Michael Weah, is joining us live from Nairobi, Kenya as well. And he's going to be part of this conversation. A lot is unfolding. The main opposition, one of the opposition folks, Alexander Benedict Cummings, returned to the Temple of Justice City Court today. All of that happening in Liberty Party is part of the collaboration. Wadei Powell is the national treasurer, monitoring what is happening inside Liberia. We're going to be talking to her here as well and how we got to this point. These and many more are going to be the point of conversation. Let me bring in my man Michael Weah before we can bring in our special guest. Later on, as soon as I get a signal, we're going to be bringing her here. But let me just bring in Michael. Michael, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon to
Are
you.
Hear me?
Is that good morning? Good morning to you or good afternoon?
Michael, are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you.
Okay, good. Okay, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm grateful to God for life.
Okay, so thank you. This is a special edition. We will potentially be back here this evening again. 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, but a lot is ongoing. What we thought were being a little bit easier, we predicted they were being a little bit much longer based on what we saw today coming from inside Liberia. The reappearance of Alexander Benedict Cummings of the Alternative National Congress, that is the ANC, one of the collaborating parties in Liberia. And we heard from the lawyer that this might go potentially 3 to 6 months. How concerned should we be with this case as we speak? We will be, so we'll get a signal from our guests. We're going to be bringing you, but let's just go to it quickly. How concerned? In fact, let me just see whether we can bring the courtesy of our sister network TV that were inside Liberia following this stage. Let's see whether we can bring this here quickly. Let's see here. I want to see if we can get this here. Okay, while we're working on it, but go ahead quickly. I believe our guest is ready and we're going to be getting the program. Are you there, Michael?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Okay, let's bring this here and see.
Documents and other two defendants conspired to alter the CPP framework document regarding the period for a party to exist, to exit. The framework, the CPP framework, are deceiving the ALP and the public that issue about the period for exiting the framework was resolved, but according to them, it was not resolved. That is the substance of the allegation against.
Our guest is already standing by. We're going to be bringing out, but this is what I'm quite sure every Liberian fan in here monitoring the political development in Liberia. Michael, let me just get your take here quickly here before we bring in our guest. Seeing those images, supporters, and this ongoing investigations within the CPP, what is that telling you? What are you gathering from your end? Quickly.
Thank you again. And then I want to say thank you to all that are viewing and those who are planning to come and view our program today. But like we said, this case, whether it is criminal in terms of the charge, but you cannot divorce politics from it. So the politics will be played. My own point of concern here is that whether it's not going to hinder the movement.
Let's hold it right there. Let's getting a signal. Let's bring in our
Okay.
guests. What are you going to hinder? They are the authority much closer to this whole shenanigan that is ongoing. We do not know. They are getting much information. Everybody seems to be tight-lipped when we get to them. Hopefully we will get an insight and a perspective to see who this thing benefits. Why is this all about? How we got to this point? Who missed the mark and get us to be where we are? Folks, we want to welcome you. This is Alfonso Z and Salt of the Liberia Public Radio. Our special guest is here. We're going to bring in our special guest is the national treasurer of the opposition Liberty Party, Republic of Liberia. Madam Wadei Powell is here. Let's bring in our guest here quickly, and then we can get this going here. Okay, there she is, Madam Powell. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Let me just buck it all up together here. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be with us here at Liberia Public Radio.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Okay, it's a normal routine. Every day we get new faces here, and sometimes to hear these you guys. Major actors with respect to what is happening in Liberia, and they don't just know. So we always perform that sort of our own ritual here by allowing our guests to give a brief intro, and then we just get right down to the wire.
Well, my name is Wadei Powell, and I'm the national treasurer of Liberty Party. And as you all already know, Liberty Party is collaborating is one of the constituent collaborating parties within the CPP, and our special interest in this case as it resolves Alex Cummings and the ANC is that the Liberty Party just recently endorsed the candidacy of Alex Cummings. So in addition to being a CPP member, we have a special interest in this case as it relates to Alex Cummings' candidacy.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Powell, for taking up your busy schedule to make time for us here for the good of our country. I've been joined by my colleagues, who is also a LPR analyst based in Nairobi, Kenya. Everybody keeping eyes on what is unfolding in Liberia, because all of us, directly, indirectly, we all have interest. Okay, it's already 1:11 p.m. here. It started. Let's start the conversation with a little bit housekeeping here. Our understanding to you were once upon a time based focus in building organizational structures or what business background?
Well, yeah, my background is I come from the private sector, and my background is organizational development. So I have close to 30 years of experience in that area, essentially change management, building organizational systems, business process engineering and re-engineering, fixing broken systems, change management processes, and so forth. So that's the background from which I come. I don't come from a political background.
Political background. How you got to this point now? You are deeply involved in the political conversations in Liberia. National treasurer of a major opposition party. So we know transformation, transitions is taking place. Business tycoon becoming politicians, soccer legends becoming the president. So it's not a crime that you are committed. Why you got into this whole thing like this?
Well, I got into this space in 2017 because of my support for Councilor Charles Walker Brumskin in the 2017 presidential and general elections. I worked along with the campaign team, and you all know what the results were. And that was my first association with a political party in Liberia, and since then have maintained my relationship with the Liberty Party. Now, as we know, um, fortunately or unfortunately, I guess it depends on who's looking at it. The Liberian political space drives and to a certain degree interferes in a lot of non-political spaces. This is the dynamics of how our politics work. And we also know that there can never be a thriving private sector or development in the private sector if you don't have the national leadership that is going to be able to properly push that agenda and execute plans and strategies and whatnot to promote private sector development. And I come from the background that there can be no national development if you don't have private sector development. So in our situation, the political vehicle is the vehicle to use to ensure that there is a private sector and social development in the country. And so that's my involvement in the political space, specifically as it relates to the Liberty Party. One of the things that I'm hoping to achieve is an elevated political party landscape in the country. Our political parties historically have not been institutions. They have been vehicles for individuals rather for the organization. And what I'm looking to is to set in motion something that may carry on to other political parties in the institutionalization of the party, as opposed to it being someone's back pocket or some mom and pop shop that would run in the country.
Hmm. Okay, my Marcus, don't hesitate when you want to join me. Let me ask you, there are multiples of political parties in Liberia. How this conclusion came about to get yourself in ties with the Liberty Party?
Well, like I said, my association with the Liberty Party came from my support for Charles Brumskin in 2017.
Okay, so let's see here. The Liberty Party of Charles Bronskin that I know and many other Liberians know, is that a Liberty Party that we have today?
Absolutely, it's the same Liberty Party. It's any organization is subject to expansion, is subject to growth, is subject to development. So it's the same Liberty Party. It's the Liberty Party that is growing. It's a breathing organization.
The growing with this sort of what other people we outside of the bear will we hearing one another wing of Liberty Party that happens to be with the suspended. I'm not sure whether she's still on a suspension. We're going to come to that. With Nyombi Kanga Lawrence on the other side, we've seen them putting in former chairperson Senator Steve Zago as a chair. On the other end there, how can one square that out to say this is the same Charles Walker Bronskin's Liberty Party? What is going on?
Well, I don't want us to keep labeling it as Charles Walker Brumskin's Liberty Party. It is Liberty Party, right? Our founder was Charles Walker Brumskin, one of the founding fathers of Liberty Party. But Liberty Party is Liberty Party. No matter how many actions people take that may be unconstitutional, may be against the rules of the National Elections Commission. And when I say unconstitutional, I mean unconstitutional as far as the Liberty Party Constitution is concerned. But and even on a third level, unconstitutional as far as the national Constitution is concerned. if we go back to some of the actions that have been taken and the justifications for those actions, you will clearly see that it is a lot of missteps. You can't, for example, nullify
Missteps, you say, Madam Powell?
absolute missteps.
From where are they coming from?
You
Who's
can't, for example, nullify a duly elected corps of officers or nullify the decisions coming from a duly called convention, and replace those officers with individuals that were in positions before, simply because you feel like it. There's a process that has to happen for any of that to happen. So the when you speak of bringing formal officials back into positions, that's just an action that is unconstitutional and is not legitimate. When you talk about some supporters on the side of Senator Lawrence, absolutely that's the case. In any situation, when you have change occurring, some people are going to be a little uncomfortable because they feel that that change may impact them negatively, as opposed to looking at the change from the benefit of the organization. They look at the change from the benefit, from their personal benefit. And that's not institutionalization. That's not what an organization is about. An organization is not about a single person. Any organization that is about a single person will never survive. And if you want to build an institutions, you have to build your institutions around principles, ideas, and not individuals. And as we all know, the foundation of the Liberty Party, and something that Councillor Brumskin practiced and preached his entire life, was rule of law. And so everything that is happening in the Liberty Party right now has strictly to do with the application of the rule of law, in our case, in the Liberty Party constitution, and the rule of law under the National Elections Commission. Those are the laws and rules and regulations that guide our political space. So anything that is done outside of that, of those tenets, is simply unconstitutional and illegal.
okay? So let's
Okay.
digress here. Yeah, go ahead, Marcos, and then I will come in.
Okay. Thank you so much, Madam, for taking up your time to appear on this program.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So you've suspended two senators and other officials for not paying their dues.
Mhm.
I believe it means that you, along with the other official, believe in commitment and also patriotism to your political institution, being patriotic. So, have you ever worked with the Firestone?
Yes, I have.
And were you suspended? Were you dismissed, or did you resign honorably?
I was never suspended from Firestone. I was never dismissed from Firestone. I resigned honorably. I was actually, there was a very grand send off that was given to me by the management of Firestone. I have remained remained in very close contact with my former bosses and colleagues at Firestone. I have still done a lot of work for them since then. As a matter of fact, one of the conditions of my leaving and going to my next employer, which was Celcom, one of the conditions that I gave them was that they would allow me 6 months to a year to transition out of my role from Firestone, because it was such an intricate role, that they would allow me to lend Firestone my help and services even after I had left, which I did. Still did a lot of stuff for Firestone even after I've left. So absolutely never suspend. I've never been suspended from or fired from any job.
All right, we will go to Google, and Google will tell us here. But let's digress here a little bit here, because talking about the Constitution, people that were elected, I surmise you are taking us to the Banga Convention, where all of you guys and everybody was in a very good mood, and sooner or later to know all other members of the collaborations for which Liberian was so somehow enticed to see it some sort of a new coming to leadership. Yeah, we are down the road. We are having all of this unimaginable. Liberians are left in apprehension which way to go. ANC Alexander Cummings is in a court battle. Chairman ability is on the other side fighting. What happens at that conference that you or maybe you guys didn't grab for which you got to this point?
When you say conference, which conference are you?
There was a Banga conference of
The Banga Convention. Are you speaking
Banga convention?
the
Yeah,
January
the
2021
January 20 something convention. I mean, just after that, and in October, we saw this whole thing falling apart. So, was there any mark that you guys, the executive, missed? Was there anything that was breeding somebody just didn't grab? How this whole thing came about?
It's no, absolutely not. There wasn't anything that was missed at the convention. We went to convention with one thought, one mind. We all agreed that the party needed to become institutionalized. We all agreed that the party needed to start running on a collective basis as opposed to a singular person being a dictator type in the party. We all agreed to the changes that were made to the Constitution. It was a 1-year review process that was sent out to many stakeholders. The National Elections Commission was a part of and witnessed the convention in January 2021. The statements that came out of that convention were all statements by whether it's the political leader, whether it's members of the National Executive Committee. Those were all statements that came out applauding the actions that had been taken at the convention, and everybody was excited. Now, I will say this, and this is not unique to Liberty Party, is not unique to Liberia. It's just it is the nature of change, right? I've been in this space for, like I said, going on 30 years, and there is not an organization or an institution that I have worked with that went through the process of change without some discomfort, right? Change, humans are not comfortable with change. They say they want change, but then when it comes to executing and changing behaviors, which is what change involves, it involves changing behaviors, it's a bit difficult because people tend to put their personal agendas before the organizational agendas, and that's what you see happening in the Liberty Party. On the one hand, you have the Constitution, which is the document that guides Liberty Party, and the National Executive Committee is saying that this is the document that we will use and we should use and we shall use to run the party. And on the other hand, you have some folks saying, no, we should not do it that way, that we should give one individual a certain amount of power to make decisions across the board within the Liberty Party. That is what it boils down to, the crux of it. And we're saying that we're not going to do that. There are close to 70 persons on the entire leadership. If you count five persons from each county on the county committee, you count 11 from the National Executive Committee, well, probably 10 because one person has resigned, and you count, I believe it's 25 or so from the National Executive Committee. That's the decision-making power of the Liberty Party, depending on the venue. So that's if you're going to a regular convention, or if you're going to a special national convention, it's two persons per county, so a total of 30 persons on the county committee. When you come to make high level decisions that have long lasting impact of the party, right? The constitutional thing to do is to make these decisions with input from the entire body, consultations. And when you're making a decision, and this is where it all stemmed from within the Liberty Party, when you're making a decision to endorse a certain political candidate in the race, it has to be a decision that considers all points of views. And that is a decision that is made by the majority of the organization, and majority speaking, meaning majority of the leadership that has been elected for the organization. It is not these are not decisions that you make by 2, 3, 4, 5 people sitting in a room and determining how the party is going to be.
From what I try to sense out of you, not to interrupt you, this seems to be one of the potential problems to get us to be where we are today.
Precisely. And this is not just unique to Liberty Party. Liberty Party is only just the first party that is saying we're not going to do this any longer. But this is how things happen across the board in a lot of political parties. And it's unfortunate because exactly what you do in your political party is what you would carry on to national leadership, right? You don't change the way you behave just because you've been elected to national office.
Okay.
Right? We're saying in Liberty Party, we're going to prepare and breed leaders that will go on to national leadership to do the right thing.
Okay, let me get to this point here. Let me, because Liberty Party, let me ask this question: is Liberty Party still part of the collaboration?
Of course, absolutely.
Is the collaboration still alive?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so let me ask this question here. My understanding, you are also a member of the executive council of the collaboration, correct?
Yes, I'm in the executive committee.
Executive committee.
Yes, I also serve on the national executive committee of the CPP.
Okay, national executive committee here. Let me ask this question. Maybe it might be insane. There are 4 political parties coming together with different political ideologies, but coming to collaborate purposely. My guess here, with a one goal. So, how extensive these conversations were within these political parties? Were there any sort of great lad things to do, not to do, especially when it comes to the higher up, the hierarchies of the party chairman, the standard bearer? I'm asking this to say, out of the 4 parties, it was narrowed down to 2. That is a unity party and that of the ANC expressing their presidential ambitions. Was there anything stipulated within the framework to say, hey, let the big dogs stay out of this whole thing, let it play out the process? Because there's a typical parable that says the elder cannot be the first person to go see the ugliness or talk about the ugliness of the bamboo. I saw Senator Dillon, Nyambli Kanga, Mr. Ure, who's also a member of the board. They were already taking side, which of course they have the right to do. But I'm asking, was there any stipulation within the framework to say, hey, we should be the last defense? That did not happen. And we saw a lot of moving here and there. What sort of method to apply? Why were all these things, were they discussed or not?
Oh yeah, they were discussed. Once again, I want to take us back to the core issue, right? So you have a document that prescribes how you ought to behave, how you ought to run the organization, which is in this case of the CPP, it's the framework document. You have that document that says this is how you will arrive at the standard bearer for the CPP, and there are processes that are in place in that document. Unfortunately, some people came into this once again after having signed on to the document.
You seems to be speaking in an esoteric tone here. Some people, who are you referring to?
Well, obviously, I'm referring to the ALP and the Unity Party. That they came into this with the notion that yeah, we know we signed off on this stuff, but we the big dogs in the house in the case of the Unity Party, and so we deserve to be coronated. And of course, the ALP from the beginning has shown its support for Ambassador Boyka, so they didn't hide that from the get-go. And so there was this expectation that we're the biggest in the house. We had the biggest numbers from 2017. We have the biggest constituencies in membership, and we're big. So, y'all gotta give the presidency or the Senate bearership to Ambassador Boyka. And we said no.
Why?
Because the framework document prescribed that we would either have a process, reach this decision through a process of consensus, and if not, if the process of consensus was not successful, we would go through a VPS to get indicators from the Liberian people who are the voters, to get indicators from them as to who we should make the standard bearer. And then we would go to primary, and the primary would elect the standard bearer for the CPP. So
let me get this right here, please. So basically, there were two alternatives put forward by the four collaborations in the process of selecting the standard bearer, correct?
Well, there were three.
There are three alternatives.
There were three alternatives. There were three processes. I don't want to call them alternatives. There were three processes that we would first endeavor to reach this decision through consensus building. If consensus building failed, that we would, by November 2021, we would set up a committee to have a final consensus dialogue, which would be structured more solidly. We would have someone from a neutral party part of that process. And if by the end of the month of November, we could not reach a decision or consensus, we would go to the next stage, which is VPS. Now, the results of the VPS were non-binding, but what they were going to do was to give us an indication of what the Liberian people, the Liberian voters felt, and that should inform how we carried out the primary. After that VPS process, it was mandated that the CPP goes to primary, that the candidates who have been duly elected by their parties as standard bearers and were wanting to contest in this for the CPP standard bearership, that decision be made by primary. But some people don't want to go to primary. They're given all sorts of reasons, or again, allegations, accusations. Oh, we don't want to go to primary because Cummings will buy all of the delegates at primary. Well, if you're afraid that the delegates that from your party will not stand firm to vote for you in this primary, you can't blame somebody else for that. This is a fear that is coming from within your camp. So it's allegations and accusations being thrown around once again without any evidence. But it really is a fear that you don't have the support within to be able to carry your candidate through primary.
Well, let me ask these questions. Why these three processes were put in place in the first place? Do you see that as part of the recipe? Why do you guys didn't narrow it down to say, hey, this is what we're going to do following consultation? Why are these three processes? If this not work, we will go this and we'll go to this other conference here. Do you see that as part of the loophole to get us to be where we are?
Not necessarily, because once again, there was an expectation that there was a possibility that a ticket could be formed by consensus, right? And so you give that process a chance, an opportunity. The issue of the VPS, I think, is a good thing, because you're now saying, okay, we're not going to just us in this room determine, what the Liberian people want. We're going to put it in front of the Liberian people. Let the Liberian people say, of these two candidates, or at the time that it was being written, of these four candidates, this is, what we think should happen. This is the person that stands for this. This is the person that we think can deal with our bread and butter issues. This is the person that we think that can revive the economy. This is the person that we think that can bring private sector development, because it wasn't going to be a VPS of person A, person B, which one you like. It was going to be a VPS of person A, B, C, D, which one do you think is able to bring change and development to the country? Because that's why we're in this space, right? Mm-hmm. And it was the information from that would have been able to guide us in the the primary process, right? And then we will go to primary, and the delegates would take the information that came out from across the nation and say, you know what, the Liberian people are saying this is who they think that can make the change, and possibly be able to use that information, scientific information, as opposed to emotional information, to use that information to select the candidate of their choice. And the thought process was, just because I'm from Liberty Party doesn't mean that if there's a better candidate in the race, and that is shown from the data from the VPS, I should be institutionalized enough as far as relates to the goal of the CPP to say that the other candidate may be a better candidate. So let me go with that. And this is what caused the fear.
Fear. Okay. Let me ask this question. I know where there are two, three is a crowd, and I come into a consensus on critical issue, especially when politics factor in. That's a problem. Was there any apprehension expressed on this option by any of the players to say, "Hey, we don't want to do that"? And maybe there was a vote taken. Say, "Okay, we gotta go there." Was there any apprehension anytime at any time you can remember as member of the executive of council or
No,
top?
not until there was no apprehension about anything, and the CPP was moving fine up until this allegation was pulled out of the thin air about alteration to the framework document.
Talking about the alterations, that seems to be the core balance of that got us to be where we are here. What was the level of engagement? Because it's getting confused. The electorates are confused. They are disappointed, and Liberian type left with, like, where are we? These are the people. So they are finding it very difficult to do business with you people, the politicians. Business people turn politicians. Other people that turn politicians, and they're finding it very difficult now. How come? What was the level of involvement? This framework document being fingered, something being altered. Was there any alteration as far as you are concerned? Whether it was a minor, whether it was a semi-minor, whether it was a major, did it meet a consensus of the group? Was there anything altered as far as you are concerned?
Okay. Let me just be very definitive about this. There was and is absolutely no alteration to the framework document that was not authorized by all of the parties.
Okay.
So definitively,
Nothing.
zero.
Thank you. Can I come in?
Yeah, go ahead quickly, Michael.
Okay. You've right after the death of Councillor Charles Walker Bronsky, you've organized a convention that led to the chairmanship of Mr. Musa Hassan Belete. So I listened to Charlene Bronsky. She said she advised the party leadership not to rush to have a change of the current leaders by then. So
yes,
was it necessary? Was it necessary that you people organize a convention immediately after the burial of Councillor Bronsky, or were you people planning that before his death?
The issue of the convention was something that was in process for over a year, right? Let's not forget that even the revisions to the Constitution was a process that took over a year, right? And you cannot make any revisions or changes to a constitution unless you go to a convention. So the knowledge that there would be a convention at the end of this process was always there. Yes, Charlene did opine that we should not go to convention so soon after Councilor Brumskin's death. And as a matter of fact, the convention was supposed to have been held, I believe, in October of 2020. And as a result of that opinion by Charlene, the convention was pushed out, and it was ultimately had in January of 2021 to be able to respect and observe the 1 year passing of Councilor Brumskin.
So, but however the convention went ahead, was that a consensus of the executive committee of the Liberty Party?
It had to be. The Constitution states that you have to have a 2/3 majority of the leadership in order to call for a special national convention. So yes.
Okay, so while still on Charlene here, she came out with a powerful statement highlighting the history of Liberty Party, what Liberty Party stands for. I'm wondering here, was there any sort of a phone call prior to her coming in the public? Was there any conversation behind the scene with both parties, the Kanga and that of the Ability, because there was Chairman Ability, there was that sort of little bit of roughness was going on. Was there any conversation you guys had with her before coming out to the public?
I
And
mean,
what was it?
of course, Charlene is she's not an outsider of the party. Charlene is engaged with the party. As a matter of fact, Charlene is a member of the National Advisory Council of Liberty Party. So she's very engaged with the party. So there's constant conversations that happen, which I won't discuss here, now. Those are private conversations. But yes, there's communication.
We discussed simultaneously with both Mr. Ability and that of
all the time.
Okay,
so the public do not deserve knowing that?
I don't think, I'm not going to. Charlene is the one that had the conversation. I'm not going to be the one to relay a conversation.
Who was that conversation against, Madam Powell?
It wasn't against anybody. The conversation is about how do we move our party forward. It's not against or for anybody.
Is the party moving forward today?
Absolutely. The party will continue to move forward.
What we're seeing now, two chairperson potentially?
There's no, once again, I think
this whole thing here. So have you guys
let's correct some information. Okay. Now, unless you want to be sensationalist, you want to make this a sensational issue, there is no two chairperson of the Liberty Party.
Okay.
You can't just jump on one day and call somebody chairperson, that person becomes chairperson. It is not. The National Elections Commission has opined on the matter. If there were two chairpersons for the Liberty Party, would the court have lifted the injunction and allowed the executive committee, which is headed by the legitimate chair, would it have lifted the injunction and allowed us to go on with our convention? There is no merit to these actions, and I don't want us to confuse the theatrics of what's happening, or the PR thing that is happening to keep this thing going with the legitimate actions, right? Liberty Party has one chairman, which is the chairman that was elected at the convention in January 2021. Liberty Party has one national executive committee, which comprises of those officers elected in January 2021, and several eminent partisans that were named to the executive committee after that. Liberty Party has one advisory council, which was put together after the convention. And Liberty Party has one political leader, which is Senator Yomli Konga Lawrence. Anything outside of this configuration is total theatrics. Let's not get the two in.
Has it been brought to the attention of the national? Because we are not the one to determine this person is not. Because what we see playing out in the media, I do not have the authority. Anybody can come here and say, "Oh, I'm still the chairman." I'm just only saying based on the information we're seeing coming out, and people seeing some of your colleagues or other members of the executive say, "Oh, this guy is the chairperson." But having said that, is Chairman Ability has some sort of formal complaint been filed with the National Election Commission to say, "Hey, wait a minute, this is what you told us, and this is why it's happening"?
Yeah, well, several communications have been made with the National Elections Commission. The National Elections Commission has opined on the matter several times in writing, and the National Election Commission's opinion and disposition of all of the issues that's been brought to it is one, that the Liberty Party Constitution that was that came out as a result of the January 2021 convention and that is currently filed at the National Elections Commission is the legitimate constitution as a result of the process of the convention in January 2021, and that the only way that any of that can be changed is either by a decision of the Liberty Party Convention or an irreversible decision of the court. Now, neither of those has happened. The Liberty Party Convention in December of 2021, the one we just recently had, validated again the Constitution. The Liberty Party Convention in December also discussed and dispose of the allegations that were made. So as a party, we have taken an official position at the Special National Convention. The National Elections Commission has also taken a position, and it's in writing in several forms. The court, in the matter of the injunction that was brought against the Liberty Party, in the case of Azango, who is challenging the convention of January 20, the court lifted the injunction because there was no merit to that case. So I mean, there's so many pieces of evidence that you have at your disposal to understand that this is all PR and theatrics. So I don't know what more I can give you.
Okay, so let's see. We also LPR is in the business of finding solution because and that's why I've said consistently here, it's not all about we just don't want to leave it with CPP or Liberty Party or Unity Party because ultimately it's about Liberia. We want the good side of Liberia. Madam Powell, when last you spoke with Senator Nyombi Kanga Lawrence?
It's been a while that we've physically spoken. She sent me a Christmas message on Christmas Day.
That was the last time?
Yeah.
Just to say hi on the Christmas Day?
Well, okay, so to understand that is to understand me. I don't just call people to say hi. If you and I don't have a conversation and have it, I mean, why am I calling you? I'm not
there's a purpose of the I don't know the routine of Liberty Party.
I don't pick up telephone just to call no anybody to say hi. That's not who I am.
Okay.
She's your political leader. And
yeah,
then,
absolutely. And even prior to this situation, I never did that. That's not who I am.
Okay, so prior to the suspension of the two people along with other officials of the party, before you come in as a treasurer, national treasurer of the Liberty Party, were they been paying dues, or is it something that they just begun because they never went? They began going at lockerhead with the current chairperson?
No. They never paid.
They have not been paying due. Now, with what I have here, Senator Lawrence, as per her position, she should be paying 1,500 monthly. Is that good? Is that true?
That's correct. Yes.
Then Senator DeLone should be paying 500 per month.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So when you calculate the amount of Senator Lawrence in a year, she should be paying like $18,000.
That's correct.
Then Senator DeLone should be paying $6,000 yearly. So if you look at the time they have in terms of their positions as senators, 9 years. So Senator Lawrence should be remitting to the party $162,000. Why Senator DeLone should be also remitting to the party $54,000. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, I haven't done the math based on the 9 years. I just my job is to look at the period under review and see who's paid and who hasn't paid.
So with this in mind, I call into your release from the party that upon renewing payment of their dues, you will reinstate them. Have they committed themselves, maybe pay half or maybe quarter of this amount?
No, there's been no communication.
Okay.
Is there any stipulations within your, because the reason we try to get to the bottom line and we will try to reach Senator Kanga, hopefully they will also answer our call to give them the fair share here. Is there any to remind us within your own working guidelines to say, hey, you're still falling behind, you need to do this? Are they showing any sound?
Yeah, so
even though this is not something grown up people are supposed to be doing. For me, honestly, I want to give you the time. We here with LPRI, we have our own commitment to keep the functions of this network. And everybody should be able to play or to do their fair share. Nobody is like a baby to babysit. People say, oh, when we know, we should be paying our internet service in Liberia at the end of every month. It's clear cut, because the services is being provided as well. So if you're a member or you're a board member, you need to pay your share. But we're just asking these questions. Is there any indicators that you are saying will this time be paid? Is there any timeline? What happens when they are caught up with that time if they do not pay?
Okay, so this is, I always say when information reaches the public, it reaches it the public as though it's the first time or brand new information, right? But internally within the party, there's conversations that has happened over a period of time. It only reached the public because action was taken and certain high level people were suspended. But that doesn't mean that this is not a conversation that we've been having over a period of time. Look, it's as simple as what you just said. You cannot run a party on air. You cannot determine or decide that you love the Liberty Party so much and preach all around that you love the Liberty Party so much, but they don't want to give a dime towards the survival of the Liberty Party. Right? These dues, by the way, these amounts were set prior to even this administration taking over. These amounts are from the budget. Yes, the budget that was set in 2020 before we took over. So we did not determine these amounts.
They were on the books.
They were on the books. When we came in, our job was simply to execute until the next time at which the executive committee would review the figures and make a determination. But these are figures that were on the books already. So reminders were sent. So folks say, pay your dues.
How many times? Can you remember on top of your head?
Yes, there were at least 2 or 3, one, as far as written reminders, one formal written reminders, but there are several reminders. As a result of those reminders, some people came in and paid their dues.
Some pay.
Oh yeah, the people that got suspended were not the only people that were on that initial list. But some people came in and paid their dues, and so they got removed from the list and did not make it to the suspension. Some people specifically decided not to pay their dues, not because they didn't have it, but because they felt that paying their dues would be lending legitimacy to this administration, and they had sworn not to recognize the administration. So it's not the issue that is going on here is not it's not an issue of the money. It is an issue of them standing their ground against what the executive committee. The Constitution is very clear. If you don't pay your dues, especially at the leadership level, if you don't pay your dues, you will be suspended. If you continuously do not pay your dues within a period of 90 days,
3 months.
3 months, yes. You will be you can be expelled what do you call it, from office. Come by the middle of January, I believe would be the 45 day period, which is midway between that period. Of course, we will send, as is my job, we will send reminders out to say, hey, listen, we have given you this information. It's 45 days in. Please pay your dues so that we can correct this. But at the end of the day, if their dues are not paid within the 90-day period, the Constitution is clear on what the options are, and the executive committee will make a decision at that time, as is prescribed by the Constitution, on how to proceed.
Are you strictly playing by the book, or is it been tweeted when it comes to people? And do you see the actions of some of these leaders? Do you see the actions deliberate, on purpose? What are they hoping to achieve?
In my opinion, of course, the action is deliberate. But I'm not here to determine whether the action is deliberate or whether the action is not deliberate. I'm here to execute what the rule of law says.
Are you checking the remaining days of those people?
Of course I am.
How many of those are currently maybe on this 90 days grace period after that? How many persons do you know?
It's about 17 persons.
17. So after the 19 days is an expulsion. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what the Constitution calls for. But once again, at that point in time, the National Executive Committee will meet to make a formal decision as to what action is taken. Now, the National Executive Committee has leverage or leeway that it can use, in their discretion. So the decision will not be taken. It's not an automatic decision. The decision will be taken by the leadership of the party.
Okay, thank you.
So, before you come in here, and if so, if one's reached the point, the Waterloo or the end of face-to-face expulsions, what do they need to do to be reinstated? Any other consequences beyond paying that?
Well, the only thing you can do at this point to be reinstated is to pay your dues.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you face expulsion and then, I mean, it's gone
Oh no,
far.
but if you allow the 90 days to pass without any communication, without any commitment, without anything, that means you're not interested. So what would be?
Are you offering payment plan? It might sound sort of a little insane. Are you offering
I'm
payment plan?
not going to sit here on LPR and talk about what the internal processes of the party is as far as that. All right. The point here is that your dues are you have defaulted on your dues. The first step is to respond to the communication that was sent informing you that you have defaulted. That passed, you were suspended. The ultimate step after that is to respond to your suspension. And in that suspension letter, it said as soon as you pay your dues, your suspension is lifted. It is up to that person now to come and respond to that. To either say, I want payment plan, or to say, here my money, or to say there's XYZ reason why this is happening, or to say anything, right? And then we will take it from there. But we can't take any action of leniency or determine to do XYZ if someone has not even responded.
All right. Let's come back to the CPP before my colleague comes in here. There are so much of multiple accusations in this whole thing here. People say the author, there was a page with signature being either exchanged or whatever. Is there any exchange signature being cross-pollinated or removed? I mean, we're finding it very difficult to get to the bottom line of it. And Liberians are eager. They really want to know what happens. Who is telling the truth here? Was there any signature swap from page 2 to page 5 to page 6, and exchangeable? What happened? What is that?
Okay, so I on this part of the conversation, I have to be very careful because this is a matter that is before the court. So there are certain conversations that I can have and certain that I can't. But I will say this as far as details, right? But I will say this. There was and is and never has been any swapping of any signature pages. As a matter of fact, the format of the signature page from the May 19th Zoom signing is a completely different format from the signature page that is attached to the amended document. Therefore, it is physically impossible for someone to have taken the signature page from that Zoom signing document and switched it with the one that is filed at NEC. Now, like I said, this is a matter that is before the court, and all of this will be brought out as evidence in the court case.
Okay.
But that accusation, I can promise you that accusation or that allegation is a lie. A blatant lie. It is not a mistake. It is not a we misspoke. It is not any of those things. It is a blatant and intentional lie.
Why?
This is essentially who does this benefit? It benefits the government.
That's the questions I want to ask you.
It benefits the government, and the government has and has always had a mole in
so who is pushing this conspiracy for
Benanayuri? He brought this issue of allegations up several months ago. He has been the one that is pushing it. The Unity Party has been conspicuously silent on a lot of the issues, but at the end of the day, we know that this is simply a government pushed agenda.
We are getting to the most interesting thing of this whole conversation.
Break up.
Okay, we are getting to the real hardcore issues of this whole conversation. Madam Powell, I want to know, is it true within the framework, if Liberty Party is on fire, if ANC is on fire, if Unity Party is on fire, ALP is on fire, you put your own fire up? Is that the case? Because I haven't heard this from official. And I just don't like to take the word from people on the Facebook who are not within the inner cycle. Well, whatever happening in our party is our own party, it's internal regular. We don't need to do that. But the question also say, hey, if you are coming together as a collaborations, then there's some sort of commonalities to make sure peace is maintained at all times. So I'm asking these questions to say, this letter, this flag, Mr. Benana Euro of the ALP, it came all like this and said, well, somebody with from in the election commission, NEC, hinted at him. I'm curious to know. There are four parties being accredited by NEC under the provisions of as a collaboration. What power does the NEC have to single if there was anything that needs to be fixed? In my own view, in my own judgment, the four parties should be served information simultaneously. We didn't see that happen. We didn't. I'm not hurry.
Okay, I want to correct something, right?
Mhm.
This issue did not begin from the National Elections Commission. The allegation did not begin from the National Elections Commission.
Right.
The National Elections Commission, as a matter of fact, has not been formally brought into the matter. It was a letter was written to the National Advisory Council of the CPP by Mr. Ben Ayuri.
Yes.
And ALP. And in that letter, he complained. He made certain complaints. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen the letter.
Yeah, I was trying to put a letter here.
And he alleged certain things, right? And there is a process that is prescribed in the framework document by which a party who has a complaint about an action, either by the entire CPP or by another constituent political party, there is a process that is described as to how that matter is disposed of. And there are internal dispute resolution mechanisms. And if those fail, then you take your matter to the National Elections Commission. If you're still not happy, just like on our national political scale, you take it to the Supreme Court. So that process is available for anyone within the CPP. Now, I also want to remind you that the CPP is a collaboration. It is not a merger, right? Yeah. So it is a collaboration of four political parties. Each political party maintains its autonomy. So these parties have not collapsed into one. We are operating under individual political parties under one umbrella, in this umbrella of the CPP. And we have rules which are in the framework document that guide how we are going to operate. So anything having to do with CPP and how CPP operates, that framework document is what spells out the rules. Anything that has to do with how the party individually acts that is not related to CPP is under the party's constitution.
Okay. So we are coming.
Yes. If my memory can serve me well, the Liberty Party had problem with Senator Steve Zago for his early endorsement of Ambassador Boakai. So why is it that you, as executive of the Liberty Party, endorsed Alexander B. Kumis prior to your convention as CPP? Then, secondly, did Honorable Musa Hassan Belete admit of making any changes or making any changes in his interest that will give him more power as a chairperson, that will also reduce the power of the political leader of the Liberty Party? When you guys went at Farmington, did that happen?
Okay, so I have a very short memory. So remind me of the first question again, because that's a very long question. What was the first question?
The first question was Liberty Party had issue, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. So yes. So yeah. Okay. So the issue is not Liberty Party having a problem with Senator Zago's endorsement, right? Senator Zago did his endorsement. Senator Dillon did their endorsement, the issue that we had as individuals in the Liberty Party at the leadership level was that when a leader or somebody that is viewed as a leader in the party speaks or makes such declaration, it seems to the public, it may seem to the public as though that is the position of the party. And we were trying to avoid the danger in putting out that this was the position of the party without having gone through the process, right? And so that's the issue that we have. The issue was not that they had a position, because everybody is entitled to their position. I'm entitled to my position. Everybody's entitled to their individual position. But when you are in a leadership role, in the Liberty Party, you have to be careful about how you put that position out, because it's sometimes difficult for the public to separate your personal position from the Liberty Party position. So that was the issue that we had. In contrast to the endorsement that Liberty Party just made of Alexander Cummings, that endorsement came as a result of a convention where all of the leaders came together and certain things were put on the table, and the party as an organization made a decision to do this. It wasn't an individual decision. Okay. And that is provided for under our Constitution, and we followed the Constitution to determine how to reach this decision that the party needed to make.
Let me ask this question here.
And the second question,
whether the chairman of the Liberty Party, did he admit
Farmington?
Yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely not. I actually happen to be at Farmington, so I have firsthand information on this, and absolutely not. The chairman did not admit to having changed anything. There was no finding from the body that said that anything was changed. As a matter of fact, the video evidence that was presented at Farmington showed that the allegation that a decision had been made in January that to include certain things in the Constitution that was based on a motion filed by Senator Dillon and approved by the convention body. The video evidence showed that was completely false. And the documentation, the MOU, and that is why we signed an MOU. And that MOU was signed between the political leader and the chairman at Farmington. So we didn't wait a day, 2 days. It was signed at Farmington, and it was what you see in that MOU is the exact conversation that came out of the sitting. And so if there had been any admittance by the chairman, pray tell me, you think Senator Dillon was going to let our leader at Farmington Hotel with all it being in that document? You think he would have signed a document that did not include that admittance? Absolutely not. It is a PR spin. Is a spin because they have dragged the party's name in the mud, and it's very difficult for them to come back and say, you know, I made a mistake, or the story I told wasn't true and whatnot. So of course they got to carry on with this. But you, as a reasoning person, you tell me. I mean, if that were me, if I had made an allegation that I made a motion, and the motion was voted on and passed, and we are at this sitting to discuss this particular thing, would I have left that sitting without that document reflecting that motion was made and passed? As a matter of fact, it is clearly stated in the MOU that the motion was not made, that Senator Dillon made a proposition, that proposition was discussed, and that the motion that came out of that discussion was actually made by the chairman, and the verbiage of the motion is there. So it's a total PR spin. We have to, you know, as viewers and consumers of information, we have to start, you know, analyzing on a non-propaganda level.
Yeah. I mean, into this talking point, the media propaganda now is taking here. Let me ask this question here because I was listening to one of the sister network. I believe it was Chairman Belete and your name was mentioned here. Do you remember at any time meeting was held at your residence where they were trying to get you guys support to potentially have Ambassador Joseph Boyka to be the standard bearer without ignoring the process, the three processes put in place? Do you remember that meeting taking place at your residence?
A meeting that took place at my
Meeting
residence.
where they were asking, or maybe Senator Kanga and Senator Darius Dillon, to prevail to say to have Liberty Party to carry it, to endorse Ambassador Boyka without the process being factoring in.
No, 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 no. Nobody came to ask me oh, okay, let's try to do this and bypass the process. No, I don't that conversation never happened with me. The conversation that might have happened over a period of time, and I can't tell you exactly where it was of course people had the candidate that they were leaning towards or supporting, and others, and we had a candidate that we were leaning towards and supporting. Our entire objective in how we would go about doing this were twofold. Number one, that it would not be a decision that would be made by, like I said, 3 or 4 people sitting in a room. And that 3 or 4 people, including myself, I was not willing to be a part of a decision on behalf of Liberty Party that would just include 3 or 4 people. And I said that to on several times to people. The 4 of us will not make this decision. I suggested to my colleagues all the time, you have a desire to see one candidate succeed. You got work to do. Go and start convincing people, in the leadership that this is the way that the party should go. I intend to do the same because I believe in the candidate that I want to support. But to say that somebody came and said, let's bypass the rules that has been set up, no, I can't say that either of them. Then
Okay. Do you think Madam Powell, as a stalwart of the Liberty Party and also as executive council or member of the CPP, the letter of June 18 by ALP political leader Benin Ayure, do you think that communication was properly addressed? We learned there was an internal investigation.
No, absolutely not. That
What was,
communication was not properly addressed.
why?
That communication was not, or the contents of that communication was not disposed of in a manner that is prescribed in the framework document. There is a detailed process that is in the framework document that tells you how to dispose of such issues. And it involves having representation from all of the constituent political parties and neutral parties be a part of this disposition, so that the resulting, what comes out of it is something that it cannot be easily challenged. And that did not happen at all. As a matter of fact, the Liberty Party official position, once we had a chance to review the May 19th document and the document filed at the NEC and everything that came in from the lawyers, the official Liberty Party position was that there was no alteration. But unfortunately, that position was watered down at the National Advisory Council level because of some personal agendas by the Liberty Party political leader, who also happened to be the chair of the CPP at the time. So that entire process was bungled. And if it had been handled in the manner that was prescribed in the framework document, we would possibly not be at this point, because it would have clearly shown what the truth in the matter was. But this issue was never about the truth. It was never about actual alteration. It was a PR campaign to smear Alex Cummings and possibly frustrate him to get out of the CPP. It was orchestrated either at the behest of, definitely with the support of the government, because the CPP brand was one that was.
Why? I still get, not to interrupt you, I kept hearing government, and even Mr. Cummins, he did confirm that during his interview with OKFM. Here you guys came together to unseat this government. So who is the Judah in this whole CPP?
It's Ben and Ayuri.
Okay.
And just if you want to know how, and we don't have the time on the show to delve into that, but look at the trend of events. Look at everything from that June letter to now. The same attempt was made in the Liberty Party to break the Liberty Party. That's why you have what's happening in the Liberty Party. Unfortunately, they were resisted to the last, and they couldn't succeed. The whole idea was we have to break up these solid blocks so that if and when we go to primary, we can have enough numbers to be able to get Ambassador Boycott selected.
Besides the government, within the collaboration, who are those also facilitating this, be a conspiracy or like you say, what Mr. Ure is doing? Who are other people within the collaboration facilitating this?
I think that I would definitely say that the Unity Party, by its silence on certain issues, right? You know, you're either a part of a conspiracy.
What do you expect? What do you want here? What do you want to hear from the Unity Party?
Well, you're either a part of a conspiracy by actively taking part, or you're a part of a conspiracy by seeing wrong being done and being silent about it, right? So we know that the investigation of this framework document allegation was bungled under the Senator Kanga's administration of the CPP. When Ambassador Boycott took over, one of the first things that we did was we sent him a letter saying, please, can we resolve this issue and put in a proper investigation mechanism as prescribed so that we know how to move forward. This was several months ago, and today we've never gotten a response to that letter.
He never replied to the letter?
Never replied to the letter.
Up to this point of this interview? Up
to this second, and I'm speaking to you, we have not received a response from the CPP chair, which is Ambassador Boycott.
We relay a program here, Ambassador Boycott, when he was in Philadelphia during one of the town hall meetings that you were having. And one of the things that he told people that when he gets back, he was going to help to stabilize. Is CPP stabilized?
Absolutely not. And we have been asking for this stabilization for the longest time. We even had discussions at the executive committee level where the four parties came together and had an executive committee meeting and decided that before we can proceed, this issue of the framework document has to be resolved, because one party is saying we're going by this version and the other parties are saying go by this version. We have to resolve the matter. You cannot continue the organization running it using two versions. So all of the parties agreed that the best way forward for this was to investigate the claim using the dispute resolution mechanism in the framework document. And that process would have taken less than 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But once again, because of the fear of the outcome of that process, it's been delayed. This was a recommendation we made, I think about 3-4 months ago. 3 months ago, I think.
I see a lot of apprehensions factoring in. Do you still, Liberty Party, do you still trust collaborating with Unity Party, for example, in this whole process here? You still want to collaborate?
That's not a matter that I'm going to speak on right now, because I'm not going to speak on, in general, Liberty Party's trust of any political.
You as an executive, if this decision was left with you, what would be your opinion? What would be your view?
As an individual executive of the Liberty Party, no, I do not trust it.
So that makes it difficult. What's about ALP? They are still part of your collaboration.
I don't trust.
I don't trust. So now Liberty Party lends support to Alexander Cummins. what is the future of this whole collaboration? Where are we here? Where are you heading? What do you hope to achieve?
Well, we hope to achieve making Alexander Cummings the next president of Liberia, whether it is through the CPP process or through another process, depending on how the CPP fares out. As far as I'm concerned, the CPP is still in effect. We are still committed to the CPP and the process that needs to unfold. We are still committed to being open to other opposition groups coming in to join the CPP. Let's not forget there is a clause. There is a clause in a lot of people tend to see the CPP as just being for political parties, but there's a clause in the CPP that invites everyone to come and participate.
Okay, now, you open the room now, because that was the questions I wanted to ask. It seems to me this confederation is an open one. That's what I'm hearing from you.
It is. It is. It definitely is.
Are you having conversation with another political party right now?
We're having conversations with everybody.
Who are those people?
I'm not going to say here.
PLP, for example?
I'm not going to say here.
When last you talked to Mr. Cummings? You are supporting Mr. Cummings now.
I speak with him every day.
Every day?
Yes.
What is he telling you?
Okay.
He trusts the collaboration still? You think he's going to still remain the collaboration?
I think you can reach out to Mr. Cummings for his personal opinions on that one.
Have you advised him on that?
I advise him on a lot of things, including
not to be part of the collaboration.
Those are personal conversations that he and I have that I'm not going to talk about here.
Okay. Yeah. What is it?
Okay. Thank you, madam. I think your position as national treasurer. People are saying that you are doing more political talking than discussing finance. So where do we stand with that?
Well, there's no such thing in my party that tells me because I'm the national treasurer that I must limit my conversations or my expertise or my knowledge to finance.
Okay, now, so how many? Because though you said there is one Liberty Party now, but there are other people, like you have 2 to 3 senators who are on the other side of the river, while you, along with the other people, are on the other side of the river. So how many districts, how many counties do you have under your control as a legitimate leadership?
Okay, so when you say districts or counties, what do you mean? Are you talking about the leadership level?
Leadership level, because you have district coordinators.
At our convention, for example, we had out of the 15 counties, we had 11 county chairs and secretary generals that were present and signed all of the resolutions.
So okay, do you have any strong link in Grand Bassa?
Absolutely, we do.
In Lofa County, do you have any strong link?
We have we have appropriate links all over the place, but I don't think that is relevant to the conversation on the Liberty Party being one or being two. There is one Liberty Party. Whether the people from one side of the river, the people from the other side of the river, they are all part of that same Liberty Party. There is no such thing as Liberty Party.
Okay, I'm not cutting you off. Kenakami, you've said that your aim and objective is to make Arizona B. Cummings, Mr. Cummings, the next president of Liberia.
Absolutely.
So in order to making the next president of Liberia that will unseat President Weah democratically, you must have the numbers. So there where I come in to ask these questions.
So Marcus, now you expect for me to come on LPR and discuss my winning strategy? It's not gonna happen.
Let's get to other issue here. We will soon be getting out of here. We really appreciate the time. Hopefully, before you get back on base, we'll have similar thing. What do you do besides being the national treasurer of Liberty Party as of now?
I'm the chief executive officer of Shimex Oil and Gas Company. I've been in that position going on 5 years now.
Is it in Liberia? Who's the owner?
Musability is the owner.
Musability.
It is in Liberia.
Does that have anything to do in making your political decisions, working for Chairman Ability, as well. Does that, if is there anything that has to do with your role within the
It
leadership?
has zero to do with my political decisions in the terms of, I think the question that you're asking is whether or not my working for Miss Ability as a CEO influences the
Right.
way that I make my decisions in a political party. If I'm correct, that's the answer.
Yeah, that's what I'm going.
So the answer to that is absolutely not. And I will even go further to say that the way I make my decisions, even as CEO of Chemex Oil and Gas, is not influenced by Mr. Ability's opinions in the way that people may want to infer, right? As the owner of the company, Mr. Ability does have his opinions on things that have to do with the running of the company, but his primary area of responsibility and ownership is in trade, in the trading component. When it comes to the company on a day-to-day basis, as the CEO of the company, I am the primary decision maker. And I know it sounds strange for a company operating in Liberia, but I am not a token CEO of Streamex. It's unfortunate that we have such an environment in Liberia that, and I've seen it, that people who are CEOs of organizations are not truly CEOs of the organizations, right? They're token CEOs, or they're put there as a placeholder or as a face for the company, and the decisions are made in most cases by the owner of the company. That's not the working relationship that I have at Streamex, and that's definitely not the working relationship that I have with Mr. Ability. And I think that my resume speaks for itself and shows that there's absolutely no condition under which that I would put myself in that requires me to be at someone else's whims as far as how I conduct myself and how I make my decisions. There's no need for it, whether it's financial or there's absolutely no need for it. So no.
All right.
As a matter of fact, I will say this to you. There are instances in which sometimes the chairman wants to put me at some of the EC meetings because I'm going so hard against something that maybe the rest of the body is in support of, but I am firm in what I believe. So I will argue. Sometimes I'm able to convince people to see it my way, and sometimes I'm not. But it never changes what my opinion on the matter is. And when a vote is held, even if I'm on the losing end of the vote, my vote is reflected in it on the paper. So, for example, let me give you a perfect example. When we were voting to take disciplinary action against Senator Dillon, I voted to expel him. And the rest of my colleagues felt that was too harsh of a decision, and I fought and I made my case. I made my argument. The chairman wanted to.
Do you think it was too harsh?
I don't think it was too harsh, but this is the democracy that we're in. So you got to go with what the larger community agrees on, and the larger community agreed on a 6-month suspension. But if I had my way, if I was a dictator, he would have been expelled.
Is there something personal against him?
So how?
No, there's nothing personal against him, but there's definitely actions that he has taken to bring the party into disrepute that I do not believe that an officer at the level that he is in at the party should have done. And I believe that he has singularly done the most to damage the image of the party by coming out with the false story about making a motion and that motion being passed. That is what got us to this point that we are at right now. He's responsible for that.
He's still responsible today.
He absolutely is responsible for that.
We are about to wind down. I need 3 words from you. How do you see yourself in this whole thing? Problem, solution, which way?
I'm always the solution. I never want problems now. My getting or the way I go about getting solutions may ruffle some people because it's definitely against the grain. I don't go with the norm. I don't go with the so say one, so say all. I push the change that I want to occur. I lobby people. I will sit down with, somebody from the top to the person from the bottom to make my case. And at the end of the day, that's just who I am. Now, my goal, once again, I tell people all the time, my goal is not to support any individual within the Liberty Party, be it Yomli or Musa, right? My goal is to support the Liberty Party, and anything that comes out of the supporting of the Liberty Party should benefit everybody within the party. Number one. Number two, even more superior to that goal is Liberia for me. So I will always make decisions that are based on what I see as a better Liberia. Those decisions may not always be with Liberty Party.
That's good.
Let me give you an opportunity here. We always like to pick lines from our onliners too and give you the opportunity to respond. Somebody is what this thing is acting crazy here. Hopefully it will come back. Somebody is expanding on your word, and I want you to give you the opportunity. If I was a dictator, do you want to be a dictator?
No, of course not.
Okay.
So,
well, I don't think people get up and say, I want to be a dictator. You either are a dictator or you're not. Is that something?
Well, we got it. Okay, go ahead of Lasha, so she will make a final statement. We can keep our effort. I think we have had a long. We will continue to have something hopefully before she gets back. Make your last point, and then she can come in with your closing mark.
Okay, before you leave, Madam Powell, how do you see Senator Lawrence as a good leader? And if the decision that were taken against these two senators along with their followers, if it was Honorable Bility who did not pay his due for the periods of 1 year or even 2 years, were you to support the decision to suspend him?
Okay, so those are two questions.
Two questions, yeah, two questions.
So let me deal with the first question first. Do I view Senator Lawrence as a good leader?
Yeah.
There are certain questions that I think that sometimes I need to have my responses be moot on, and that is one of the questions. So I will respectfully decline to answer.
You plead the fifth?
Yes, I will plead the fifth.
Okay.
On the question of if this had been Musa.
Capability. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just say this to you. The reason why people sometimes tend to believe that Musa and I agree on everything is not because we agree on everything. It's because we don't let certain things get to a certain point.
Yes.
It would have never gotten to that point. I would have never allowed it to get to that point when it came to Musa, because I would have advised him differently. The same way I have advised the senator in the past. The difference is that Musa takes my advice and others decide not to. But if I had advised in the background and Musa had been in a situation where, as a matter of fact, when the information first came, he was the first one I told him, man, you better pay your 2 months. He was behind 2 months. You better pay your 2 months dues. Because you pay your 2 months dues, your name will be on our list. We joked and laughed, about it. But he paid, like I said, there were other people, myself included.
Okay, that's what I was coming to, because your
I was down $50. I had to pay my dues.
So you are 100% clear now?
I'm 100% clear now. So everybody that is currently on the EC is 100% clear for the 2021 year. January 2022 has started a new year.
Okay.
I haven't. Nobody has paid for January 2022 yet, but we're still not. The month is not over yet,
Including yourself or what?
including myself. Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay, Madam Wadei Powell is the national treasurer of the Liberty Party. Let's find a solution now. What is the way forward you want to put forward for Liberians and those that are listening? How can we? What is the solution to this whole problem here? What do you think?
Gosh, I don't think that there's one solution to this whole problem. We didn't arrive at the space that we are at right now overnight, and we're not going to move from this space overnight. But one of the things that or several things that I think that we do need to start doing as Liberians is we need to start analyzing more for ourselves, as opposed to just taking people's words, right? We need to start doing more research. We need to start reading more and coming up with our own conclusions as opposed to anything that political pundits or news networks or even, shows like this put out. I mean, I know that what I'm saying here could very well, I mean, is the truth as far as my research is done, but you never know. I could be lying to you. So go do your own research. Analyze situations and things for yourself. Don't allow people to just tell you that this is green and then you accept that it's green. I could very well be lying.
Yeah, there's a chemical component that produces the color. You got to make sure of yourself. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, Madam Powell, I want to thank you so much for taking of your time to, for us to have these conversations. Is for the sole purpose of us knowing the directions of our country. We will also try to reach out with Senator Nyambli Kangat if the grant our that we did in the past. Hopefully, they will answer up from this one here, and to also get their side of the story. And that's why for us here at LPR, we are not in the entertainment industry. We are not in the amusement industry. It's strictly information sharing, and it must be done proportionally with fair, balanced, and objective conversations. We want to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. And when you do reach out to her, do encourage her to first to begin these reconciliation talks that Charlene called for. We're ready for it.
You are ready for it?
Absolutely.
Upon your return?
Oh, we've been ready for it. We put out a statement immediately after Charlene made her statement. We've been ready for it.
Okay, well, so probably now you're going to be making phone calls. You're not a person who who plays phone calls. So, but this sort of reconciliation requires not a phone call and a conversation before even sitting around the table.
Of course, of course. But the first thing that it requires is for both parties to be willing.
Yeah, that's a key.
That's
a key thing.
That's the first.
All
thing.
right. Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me today.
All right.
I enjoyed it. It was quite refreshing.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. Okay, well, that's it. We're gonna be back here this evening, and like I said, we try this morning. I will try again to reach out to Senator Nyambli Kangat Lawrence. I hopefully, even if she can't come, but we encourage her, and this is what we should be doing because everybody should be given the fair share, not to follow our political or individual government to draw the conclusion to begin to adjudicate people without hearing from them. I don't think that is fair. Okay, quickly here. What do you make of her conversation here this afternoon before we go?
Yes, I think I've been following her discussion. She's unique. She's exposition were on time. They were on point. She's very smart. I mean, she's answer questions that she's supposed to answer. So I mean, I must applaud her. Because this is now a role to condemn people. What we do is to bring people to the table, discuss whatever they have to discuss, and then we also ask our questions. Sometimes we give our views. It is the Liberian people that will also determine whether what we are doing is good or whether what we are doing is bad. But on an overall view, she performed. I mean, she's a smart lady. I don't see no reason why they should keep her to that position as national treasurer. She should be one of the protagonists.
You want to start trouble now? Why you want to carry her?
You say
You
where?
start, I think you starting trouble
Yes,
now.
because
Why you want carry? Why you want to? Why you proposing now?
yeah, the reason is, you know, there is a problem when it comes to female participation at the higher level in politics in Liberia. So if you have such a smart and eloquent individual, I mean, you should make use of her because who nobody knows. There
Yeah.
are other people out there who are hunting for such a brain.
Yeah, so we will try to reach out. I spoke with Senator Kanga in the past, but what she told me was at the time CPP was in the height of this whole tension, and she said, "Well, right now it was not the best time." And politicians are very calculative because at a certain time when you face the media, instead of stabilizing, you have to exacerbate the tensions already. So that I see reason with all people. You gotta get your hair on your shoulders, or sometime when you as much people lost being before the camera, there are certain thing you want to make sure you get it done inside. So now I don't want to say the train has derailed, but seeing what we're seeing right now, it's time. And these people need to speak out. She was very definitive in some of her positions. I call name as she thought it wise to be people that are responsible, and that's how, and this is why we don't like as a Liberians. They don't like people with both face who say is as it is, and not that it's out of bitterness, but in order for us to find problem solution to problems, we have to. You and I can get into an argument or LeBron's message, make force, and everybody, you, Michael, you get back, Alfonso, you get back. No, we're not finding common ground.
Yeah, that's true.
Someone might have be the initiator of this thing here, and we must look in the faces of these people and tell them exactly why it is. But again, I will try to reach out to them, be a Hall or any other person within a hierarchy to come for us to hear their side of the story. Because I said this consistently. We're not going to leave you with CPP. We're not going to leave you with CDC. We're not going to leave you with all of the state actors because at the end of the day, their political decisions are going to affect you, affect me, or
Every one
all
of us.
directly or indirectly. So
That's true.
it's not like the people think. Well, Marcos, I want to thank you so much for your time this evening. By God's willing, 7 p.m. We're going to be here in the full house where the liberal progressive will be here, and that of the man from the far right, based in Atlanta, Georgia,
Yeah.
Amos
It,
is going to be
will the Labour Progressive come with his county?
County. That man got a County from Walmart, and then he'll be lying to the post from Grand Gita. And not from Grand Gita, he was paying for it for Walmart. Yeah, he's the only man to get County from. Uh,
Okay. Thank you so much.
all right. Okay. So somebody say, I don't know. All right. Thank you so much. I don't know. Somebody was telling me I must set up interview for who. I don't know.
Would you
Well, some of you guys that because those people we have them, but most of the time you call them, they choose which network to go to. Sometimes they make an appointment, and then just in the dying minute they say, "Oh no, I'm not coming." So we can force them. Our job is to reach out to them, and when they come, that's it. All right, Michael. Thank you so much, and have a pleasant afternoon. Okay.
From the West African nation of Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia Public Radio and Television present Business Diary. This program focuses on the activities of business institutions and individuals in society.
I'm Jeremiah Zhao Senior, CEO of All Nation Bank. It has been very good to have this business established here. We are 1 year since we opened here in Anono. There have been few challenges here that have faced in this country, and that is all about the language. But here instead, I refuse to be deterred. I refuse to be discouraged. I open a business and things have been fine.
My name is Mercy.
All right, folks, there you have it. Their voices coming from the West African state of La Côte d'Ivoire. Liberians engage in wide range of issues, business. And so we try to pivot our cameras in that direction. There are Liberians who are doing extraordinary job. So we are not going to allow only politics to be the core conversations on this network. So these are Liberians involved in multitudes of roles. Business Diary will be coming soon here by our West African correspondent based in Abidjan. I will be coming up with that program very shortly. So some of the extraordinary job small businesses, entrepreneurs, Liberians in Ivory Coast and other parts. Well, you can also advertise your business if you wish to. I thank you so much for being part of today's program. I'm Afonso Zian. So by this evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the full team analysts are going to be here to dissect some of the news happening. The political leaders of Alternative National Congress, ANC, is back, went back to court today. We're going to be getting your views and your take. Like your page, our page, follow us on Liberia Public Radio Facebook page and that of our YouTube page. Until then, by God's willing, let's keep praying for our country and for the good of everything. Have a pleasant afternoon. Bye-bye. Hallelujah, giving the highest praise. Hallelujah, giving the highest praise. In the morning when I wake up, in the night when I wake up, I will lift up my voice to heaven and give you the highest praise. Hallelujah to my King. Hallelujah to my Father. Hallelujah to my Jesus. I love the Father throne. When I look at all the wonder and I see all the creation, the beauty of the universe, you never change. You never lie. You never change. You never change. Hallelujah to my Jesus. Hallelujah. 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 Hey, hey. Hallelujah. Hey. Giving. Hallelujah. Hey. The highest praise. Hallelujah. Giving the highest praise. Hallelujah. Giving the highest